So I got a message yesterday from one of our listeners, and they were asking very politely, like it was a good conversation. So shouts to Sarah. I'm going to read your comment later on, but one of the comments as we were going back and forth, she asked, when's the best time to like message us so that she's not spoiling anything, like if you have any questions. And I said, I feel so confident that I've become so good at ducking spoilers that anytime's fine. Because I'll just avoid, like if I see something that I'm not supposed to be seeing because I haven't watched the episode, I'm confident in my skills to duck and dodge any spoilers on social media. So then, last night, my friend had a Zoom party because it was his birthday.
Oh.
So we had some drinks. And then after said Zoom party, I just went on social media. I don't even know why, because it was like 4 a.m. in the morning. And the first thing I saw someone message us, it just said Josh. And then I stopped paying attention to the message. But in my peripheral Twitter reading skills, it was something to the effect of, what is Josh doing? And I laughed because I'm like, that's not really a spoiler. Because that could mean so many things. And I love it so much because I love this show. And it kind of made me giddy going in because I was like, all right, Josh is going to do something Josh-like, which is always entertainment because it's always something dumb.
Yeah. I want to second what you said. Because I actually had a listener literally just message me as you're speaking it. Mona7 was very cautiously trying to like not spoil things.
Which we appreciate.
Which I appreciate, but like honestly, I don't care. First of all, I don't care about like spoilers in life.
Okay.
Like people can be like, yeah, Bruce Willis was dead throughout The Sixth Sense. It's cool to me. I don't care. Like I still like watching it. Like it doesn't throw me off. Also, my apologies if I just spoiled a 20-year-old movie for people. But yeah, I typically dodge them. I also typically have my phone away Wednesday nights. Either I'm at work, or if I'm not at work, I'm at home. I just tune out. I stay off social media. And like you, sometimes if I catch myself scrolling through Twitter or whatever, it's very easy for me to just, I don't know, as soon as I realize it's challenge related, I just roll past, you know?
Josh doing Josh things.
Josh, I can't wait to talk about Josh, but let's introduce ourselves. Let's wait long enough to introduce ourselves. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander. And John, feel free to cut down that intro any way you see fit.
Nope. I will let the listeners know, here on You Killed It, we hardly ever edit the podcast. Like, I think maybe, like, I'll cut something, like I cut the beginning and add the intro bumper, and I cut the ending to add the outro bumper, and like every so often, like I had to cut some things out. Like last week I got a phone call I had to take in the middle of the podcast. A couple weeks before that, I insulted some people by name on the podcast, like people we know in real life. I'm like, not a great look, so I cut that out. Basically, Sheldon's perfect, and I have to cut out my parts because I have a hotter temper than Sheldon and say things I regret when I'm thinking about it and like hearing it played back. But typically, when you like listen to You Killed It, it's like 90 minutes of uncut conversation without any changes made.
Except for when I fuck up something technically.
I mean, that happens sometimes too. Those are the cuts. I have to cut things when Sheldon makes technical errors, and I have to cut things when I say things we'll regret.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's early in the morning and I'm punchy, and I'm just throwing bombs, and then I regret it in the afternoon once I've had a coffee.
Speaking of throwing bombs, though, there's some bombs thrown in this episode.
Oh, what a beautiful segue. Off the top, I had to say, so we pick up this episode from where we left off last episode. Literally, people returning to the bunker after after D wins the elimination. And the first thing I noticed was as they're walking down the hallway into the bunker, who's right there with D?
Rogan. Yeah.
Things are cool between D and Rogan, and that subtly sets the tone for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, still, I'm like, whatever. I'm still over it. I don't even want to hear about them. It's like, whatever. I'm here for this Ouija board.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, you can tell how bored they are, right? Like, you're basically getting... Because they made up their own Ouija board, and Bear, Tori, Kailah, and Big T are playing, and Bear is just using this as another effort to just flirt with Kailah, which, you know what? You got to give the man credit for persistence, right?
You do have to give Bear credit for persistence. We could talk a lot about how society encourages men to be romantically persistent, and sometimes it's problematic. But that's probably a conversation for a different sort of podcast.
Correct.
But it's working.
Yeah.
Like, he is laying down game, and it is working. Also, to your point about how bored they are, you know you're bored when you're building things.
Correct.
And that's not to knock on, like, carpenters or anything. I just mean that, like, if you're like, oh man, how are we going to spend an hour? Let's make a Ouija board.
Right?
Probably means you're bored.
For sure. Bear's just messing with her so much. Kailah's falling for it. It's funny, and Bear's still shooting his shot. He asks Wes jokingly what he should do, and they're laughing, they're joking around. And then we get... Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I just gotta say, I thought that was the most charismatic thing Bear has ever done. When he was asking Wes for advice.
Yeah, in front of Kailah?
In front of Kailah, but, like, Wes, who hates Bear, was into it. And, like, Anissa, who is too old for this bullshit, is also like, all right, this is pretty good.
Because I think we can't just glaze over the fact of how boring it is in the house. And so you need Bear to provide some form of entertainment. It
also seems like he's toned down his personality from previous seasons a little bit, and I know, like, he still, you know, sprayed a fire extinguisher into into a room. Like, he's still doing Bear shit, but it's less, I don't know, less sloppy. Like, it seems like, you know what it is? We're seeing less of Bear drunk, and I don't know if they've limited how often they drink. They're still drinking, for sure. We see some scenes where they've been drinking, but he seems a little slightly more contained. Like, previous seasons he was at an 11, now he's at like an 8 or a 9. You know what I mean?
No,
and
for
like,
sure.
He's definitely winning people over, including Kailah.
He's definitely winning over Kailah, for sure. He's not winning over Jenna, which we'll get to in a bit, but we get some, I guess, foreshadowing, because we've already seen in the trailer and the teases for the season, Zach and Jenna arguing, but now we're getting them playing nice. So they're planting the seeds, right? And Zach's at home. Obviously, he's missing Jenna. They're having their little back and forth. But my question to you here was, so Jenna went on the show and she says, I'm just happy I'm here to try to win some money. We're trying to, like, get our life situated, blah, blah, blah. Between the two of them, who has a better chance of winning money, right? Because clearly it was like, oh, well, one of us will go on, not both. So does Jenna have a better chance at winning, or is that Zach?
I mean, I would say historically Zach has the better chance of winning.
I agree.
Like, he's been a runner-up. He's won. He's won a season.
Yeah.
But he's also been a runner-up recently.
Yeah.
But I think his heart hasn't been in it lately. And also, I feel like I say this all the time, they also get paid per episode.
Yeah.
And Zach and Jenna probably know that this stage, Jenna would last longer on the show. Just because, like, Jenna's super popular, and rightly so, because she's, like, super nice and, like, low-key and fun. So, if they're just looking for that appearance fee paycheck,
Jenna can slide a little further along.
Then Jenna's doing okay.
Correct.
Right? And also, they probably, the cast members, when the casting call goes out, all the cast members chat with each other. So Jenna probably knew that two of her best friends in Nani and Kailah were going to go. Zach probably looked and was like, things aren't so great with bananas these days. I love Jordan and Tori, but like I don't want to hang with them that much. Like I just finished a season where it's basically the three of us hanging out. And so like, how about Jenna? You go because you know two of your best friends are going to be there, and like more likely that you'll stay because you have a built-in alliance. Also, I don't have that built-in alliance, so I don't know. They probably did the math. Yeah. Although, then again, knowing Zach and Jenna, maybe they did not do the math.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
We'll see. We'll see where that goes. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. We shall see where that goes for sure. If we skip ahead a bit to Josh and Wes on the treadmill, and I didn't realize, like, I thought they were joking around. Like, I didn't realize, like, this was, like, kind of a thing in the beginning, because they're kind of, like, laughing and joking around, but they're on the treadmill, and Wes is, like, kind of making fun of them, like, hey, why are you following me, blah, 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 and we get a confessional from Josh, where he says, coming from Big Brother, I have a whole different strategy, socially and politically. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't want to misquote Josh. He says, coming from Big Brother, clearly I have a whole different strategy socially and politically that I bring to the game that this game has never seen. What is the furthest that Josh has made? Has Josh made a final? Like, is Josh successful in this game?
No, he has not made a final.
I'm hesitating because I know I was wrong about the Nelson eliminations, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, so I'm sure someone will correct us if I'm wrong. But what does Josh bring to the challenge? And again, I will use this opportunity to remind everyone, yes, Josh won Big Brother, but he won Big Brother in the worst way possible. He was put up there as a pawn each and every week, not on purpose, and he only won because everyone was so salty because of the great game that the person Josh was going against in the final. Everyone was so salty and hurt at how well that person did that out of spite, they voted for Josh, who everyone knew did not deserve to win, much less even make it to the finals. So he won Big Brother by fluke. And I know that sounds like hate, but he won Big Brother by fluke. So I don't know who he's trying to fool here.
Thank you for buying us some time, because I looked up Josh's record. He's never made a final. In War of the Worlds 2, he lasted 13 episodes.
Pretty good.
Before losing to Jordan.
So that's last
End
year.
Of the Rope.
That's last season. Which I'll get to at the very end. I'll get to that. Because I can't even lie to you, I went back to look at what I wrote from that episode, because it's going to come up later on.
Well, I think I agree. Like, this was a dynamic I wasn't aware of until, like, this scene. I was like, oh, this is not, like, are they kidding? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And also, one thing that was in my mind was that, as you might recall, at the end of last season, there was at the reunion, Wes couldn't be at the reunion, but he called in.
Yep.
And he basically told off the internet for giving Josh and Laurel such a hard time, and was like, hey, it's just a game. Like, we're cool. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah. We're good. And was like, and like, Josh and Laurel both responded well to that in person and on Twitter, where they're like, you know, that's why we love Wes. Like, keeps it in perspective. Real world versus the challenge world.
Yeah.
We're all good. No problems.
So then it's so weird to see Josh now in a position where... And I love that Wes is calling him out for it, right? Because Wes is like, I don't get why this guy thinks he's on my level. Which I totally agree with. Wes says he's in the major leagues and you're in the minor leagues. Which, who would disagree with that?
Yeah.
I don't know who would disagree with that. So
aside from Josh,
I bet you if you asked Josh truthfully, he would probably he would agree with that as well, sorry. But then there's a weird scene that I don't really understand what's happening, where Wes is working out with Corey and Nelson, and they're on the turf, the like fake turf that's laid down, and you can see it's kind of like folding up at certain points, but it seems like an easy fix. It seems like not a big deal at all. Jordan appears to get mad, and then Wes comes over to confront him, and then they end up like screaming in each other's faces. I wrote down simply, what is going on here? Can you explain to me, John, what was going on here? Because I really didn't get it.
My best guess is that they're just like stir crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is Wes and Jordan's equivalent of the Ouija board.
Yeah.
And you know, they're both, as I forget who, someone said in confessional that they're both alphas. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was D who said it, but they're both trying to be the alpha male.
Yep.
And Jordan also has complained on previous seasons, regardless of Wes, that he feels like he's always the one to clean up the house.
Okay. Yes, that is true. Good call.
So, you know, this is probably like Jordan obviously has a hard time biting his tongue. And so I think Jordan's original comment where he was like, hey, like, stop fucking up the turf. And Wes is like, don't worry, we'll handle it. And then Jordan was like, nah, I'll fix it because I always fix it. I think that was Jordan just being like an annoyed housemate. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, we've all had roommates and you butt heads with your roommate because like they ate your peanut butter or whatever. Like, I think that was where Jordan was coming from. And then Wes was like, I am so sick of this guy being cocky and arrogant and rude to me, and I am not going to tolerate any more disrespect.
So, Jordan...
And he was also jacked up from, like, working out. Like, the testosterone was going.
Yeah, and Wes says, you know, don't talk to me like you talk to everyone else in the house, like I'm not them. Then, does he go too far when he says, don't talk to me like how you talk to your wife? Is that going too far?
I thought that was too far. Okay. I did. Not just because, like, it does... Like, I was just finished praising Wes for separating the real world, like, real life, mm-hmm. from the challenge, and it seemed like Wes just brought real life into the challenge. It's harder because, like, Tori is part of the challenge. But also... It's such a bad look for Wes to make it that personal over essentially a fight about who's going to clean things up.
Yeah, like I thought it was a dumb argument altogether, and it was kind of weird for Wes to pull that up. But why does Jordan have a huge sausage in Wes's face and telling him to eat his dick? I was kind of just like, what is happening right now? It's just such a weird... It was a weird play by Jordan that, like, yeah. I think Wes was probably so thrown off. And then now, the part that we will never fully understand being on a show like this is there's moments where clearly they're just trying to one-up each other, right? And so you know the cameras are on, you know you're in an argument, so you know this is going to make the episode. So you're going back and forth with someone and you're thinking, oh no, I can't lose this argument. He's making a fool of me. He's waving this huge sausage in my face. What can I say to kind of one-up him? It was just weird altogether, but I think they both kind of realized that it was dumb. But that was where we saw the line that we've been seeing the whole time of Jordan saying he's mentally in the game or whatever the quote is.
Which is funny because, like, in that context, like when we always saw that line in trailers, I was always like, oh, they're having like a heated, like, you just nominated me, mm-hmm. sort of like, you're campaigning against me moment, but it was over the turf getting, like, knocked up.
I definitely thought it would have been something more important, for sure.
But, like, I would argue that in that moment, Jordan's head was not in the game. It was on, like, keeping the house clean, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. which is not part of the game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I also think that, they're both reality TV veterans, right? They both started on The Real World. They both obviously have, between the two of them, 20 seasons on the challenge?
Yeah.
Like, they have done a lot of time on reality TV between the two of them. They know the camera's there. Mm-hmm. They know that they're two of the stars of the show. they know that any heated interaction between them is going to be on that highlight reel.
Yeah.
Maybe not make a trailer, but like there's an aspect of performance, right? Like they know on some level.
The two people though I'm gonna give the most credit to is one, Johnny Bananas, who at one point Jordan tries to bring him in and Bananas is like, nope, keep me out of this one, and he just sort of sits back and watches. And then Corey, who says, I don't know what's going on right now, but we have two of the strongest dudes going at each other, and it's a guys elimination week, so I'm just gonna sit back and I'll continue. We've been saying it every week. Corey's playing things super smart, right? Like we'll see a dumb move from Corey coming up, but in terms of gameplay, he's playing his cards right at this point. Gotta give him credit for that.
He is, and Nelson too. Like they were just as involved in that turf, but they just like let it roll off their backs.
Agreed.
It's a good look from Corey and Nelson, and yeah, Johnny. I really think that by and large, Johnny and Wes have done a good job of appearing to not be on each other's side. They haven't fooled everyone, and we'll talk to that.
Yeah,
we'll speak to that. But like that's such a classic example of Johnny, by staying out of it. It's a good look for their alliance. You know what I mean? For sure. And from a good look from Johnny and Corey to a good look from Jenna, who really does a good job here. And, you know, you mentioned real life and challenge life. Jenna does a good job here playing the role of your best friend, where, you know, you have that one friend that'll talk you down, that'll, you know, save you in moments of you getting in your own way. And Jenna sits Kailah down and she basically says, okay, so what's really going on with this bear thing? Because I feel like it's kind of getting out of hand. And Kailah's telling her, no, like everything's fine. Like I've told them multiple times, I have a boyfriend, I'm not interested. And, you know, like we go back and forth. I'm not going to lie, I'm like intrigued by him. He's funny. I like hanging out with him. He keeps things loose. But she's saying that she's okay. And at that point, I give Jenna credit, because I think your duty as the friend is, even if you know your friend is about to make the mistake, you at least got to be that barrier to where you bring it up and then you let them make their own decisions because they're grown-ass people. So I respect it. I like what Jenna did. I respect it, and also, I mean, I think Jenna has always had a good moral compass, and you know, she's remembering that, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 weeks from now, they're both going to have to go back into the real world, and like answer questions, and at least Jenna can say, I spoke to her about it,
I tried.
And also, you never know, maybe Kailah doesn't realize how into Bear she is. Like maybe like I don't know if you've ever had that, but I've certainly had a moment where I've had to say to a friend where I'm like, hey buddy, you know that you like that person, right? Like
totally.
And like it's cool, I'm not judging you, but like there's sexual tension there, just like you feel it, right? And like sometimes they haven't. And also the way that Jenna brings it up, she says, I also just want you to be careful because you know how things can get misinterpreted or misconstrued. You don't want someone to take something out of context, which I thought was also really smart as well. But Jenna just bringing good advice. Jenna is good people's. D is not good people's. And I don't understand why D is someone who repeatedly appears to be someone who calling shots in this season, or like not actually calling shots, but playing the role as if she's calling shots. So her and Wes sit down and they're trying to think of a way that they can throw Jordan in. And Wes brings up, hey, you know, maybe we just start throwing him into every single elimination. And I'm thinking, wait, what? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. But I was just, the whole conversation just made me mad because I'm like, why is D is nobody. Yeah, she has a skull, cool. Just be quiet and play her position. I don't know. That was my take on that. What do you think? Thoughts on D and Wes's convo there? I understand why Wes spoke with her. Because he doesn't have... She's who he trusts most in the house.
Yeah.
And I understand their history, and I understand that although Johnny is probably his most important alliance member, that it would still at this point be hard to trust Johnny all the way.
Yeah.
They're still building that trust, right? Like, they have 10 years of history, most of it negative. It would be hard to not...
No, for sure.
So I get that. But I feel like the male side of the house is still playing this season like it's a previous season.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, just keep throwing the same guy in over and over and over again. Whereas, and this comes up later, like, someone, like, you have to go in. Like, you personally have to go in at some point.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's what matters. As much as you dislike, like, it's to your advantage to keep Jordan out of eliminations.
Yeah.
Sure, he's going to annoy you, but eventually, like, he's going to be gone, or, like, he won't be able to compete in the elimination, and that's where you hurt him, is in his bank account, right? Like,
yeah.
So, like, why give him the opportunity to go to the final?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. You got to be worrying about getting yourself into the final. That's why I know CT lost to Jay, but CT's strategy was actually the best strategy, where it's like, I'm going to get in as fast as possible, and then I'm just going to, like, chill in the cut. Like, then I don't have to worry about politics. I just have to train, which, frankly, in CT's case is important to, like, work himself into shape. But, like, I'm just going to, like, work out, eat food, have a beer, get some rest. Like, that's how I'm going to, like, live my life. Wes should be following that example.
Yeah.
But he's having a hard time because that's not his usual game. Like, I think what we really see in this episode is Wes having a hard time adjusting and adapting his game.
Yeah.
Right? And that's part of this conversation.
Yeah. Totally, for sure. I think that's a weird one for sure. We head to the actual challenge of this episode, and I thought this was a pretty cool challenge, just because, like, shouts to the stunt driver, which I wrote that in the beginning, but TJ, when you first see the car, I was like, yo, TJ can't be driving this car, right? Like, I thought that for a second. I'm like, he's not that badass. He can't be driving the car. But he's definitely riding shotgun. And I love the way that they cut it together, because I rewound it to check. I was like, hold on, was this guy not wearing a helmet? Like, there's no way the stunt driver's wearing a helmet and TJ's riding shotgun and he's not wearing a helmet. So, but also, too, on another note, because as I think about this on the fly, it's also possible that they just edited TJ getting out of the car. So, like, my guy's on the two wheels, he drives up, they stop, TJ gets in, then he drives normally in front of them, and TJ gets out of the car. Right? Like, that's entirely possible, too. We don't know.
Yeah.
But either
I
way,
imagine TJ Lavin, though, is going to be like, yo, you're putting me in that fucking car.
But that's what I'm saying. Either way, the way that they cut it together, it looked badass. Him getting out of the car, not wearing a helmet, right after the shit was on two wheels. I was like, all right, TJ, I see you.
A guy who had been in a medically induced coma for weeks. Like, I don't worry about my brain health. He actually posted a photo on Instagram this past week, like a Throwback Thursday photo of him, like, on his BMX bike, midair, doing a trick without a helmet. He's like, I forgot we didn't wear helmets back then.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Super crazy.
You missed out on the 80s and 90s when personal safety. I don't know if people realize this. Concussions didn't exist until about 2010.
Yeah.
So, like,
wasn't a thing.
You just didn't get brain injuries back then.
Yep. Wasn't a thing at all. But this challenge was called Bomb Squad, which I'm not going to lie was weird, because I just finished watching the final season of Homeland, which obviously, you know, a lot of the themes in Homeland is about bombs and people getting bombed and shit. But also, on a complete side note, and I know I'm throwing us off on a tangent here.
No, I love it.
Around episode 8 of this season, Hillary Jardine pops up in Homeland.
Yes.
who we went to high school
You didn't know
with.
that. You didn't know that she's on Homeland.
So the thing was, I felt like I remember it, like I remember hearing the news, like whenever it was announced, but it didn't really register because I just was behind in watching this season, and so I kind of remembered, but not really. And then because it was so late into the season, when she did pop up, I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, for those of you who are familiar with Hillary's work, Hillary Jardine is an actress. She was on the TV show Van Helsing.
Yes.
And she was on Homeland. She was on something else recently. That's going to bother me. I'm not going to look it up. But Hillary's a friend of ours. When we were in high school, me, Sheldon, and Hillary were all in Mr. Vethameni's grade 12 law class together.
Whoa, I almost forgot about that class.
That's right.
How could I forget it? I can't forget about that class. That class is crazy.
No big deal, but we watched the second plane crash during September 11th together. The three of us, among others. There's other people in the class. Also in that class was future Winnipeg Blue Bomber Nick Kordick. Sheldon
hilarious.
is just dying right now.
That's amazing.
A weird thing about our high school is that it was a big arts high school. So we also went to high school with Pat Adams from Suits, who is a grade older than us.
Yeah.
And he's friends with Hillary. I didn't really know Pat. I don't know if you did, Sheldon.
No.
But
No.
yeah. So just to blow people's minds.
Mike Ross, for the layman who might just be familiar
Yes.
with Suits.
Mike Ross from Suits. So in other words, Sheldon and I are just like 2 degrees separated from Meghan Markle and Prince Harry.
He used the Prince
I guess
Harry
he's
before
no longer
Prince Harry.
Prince. That's right. That's right. Anyway, off on our typical northern tangent. I just wanted to put in people's mind's eye that in the late 90s, early 2000s, all those people were hanging out in the same building. Granted, a gigantic building, but in the same building, and 4 of us were in the same classroom at the same time. Also, Matt Black of the Toronto Argonauts would have been not in that class with us, but also in the same building as us.
So just to round this off, Cab, Cabby, right? When I used to work with him at the Score, he would always, a part of his job, he was traveling all over the place all the time, right? And he would come back every weekend. He'd come back and he'd be like, Shelly, seriously, man, I don't get you northern people. Like, how many people went to your school? No matter where I go, I meet someone that says, hey, I know Sheldon from Northern. And he's like, what? He's like, no matter where I'm at. He's like, I was in London, England, and bumped into someone that said they knew you from Northern. He's like, hey, man, we're everywhere. I don't know what to tell you.
If you look up way, way, way back, Cabby on the Streets, when he was on The Score, there's an episode that I'm on because I cut class at Northern.
Okay.
And he stopped me to ask me a question about how many black players there were in the NHL at the time.
I did not know this at all.
Yeah,
That's
so that
hilarious.
was grade 10 or 11. So again, just to put it full circle, Sheldon and I knew each other. I got interviewed by Cabby Richards, who's a sports personality in Canada. And then Sheldon, 4 years later, was working with Cabby and friends with Cabby.
That's insane.
And we were all,
I didn't know that.
Me, Sheldon, Hillary Jardine, Pat Adams, Nick Kordick, Matt Black, all at high school together at the same time. Also, we've never even spoken about our connection to Big Brother Canada. Liza Stinton, who was also in our grade, was on Big Brother Canada Season 1.
I forgot about that. That's incredible.
And is also now an actress. She was on a Pizza Nova ad. But so Sheldon and I would have law class in the morning, and then I had English class with Liza, who went on to Big Brother Canada in the afternoon.
Your memory is way better than mine. I totally forgot about that. Wow.
Just 6 degrees of separation.
Wow.
All through Northern Secondary School.
Wow. That's crazy. That is actually insane.
Layers upon layers.
I don't even know how we got... Oh, Bomb Squad. Bomb Squad.
Right.
I was like, how did we get here? Bomb Squad, Homeland, Hillary Jardine, Northern. Okay, that's how we got there. Back to the challenge.
There you go.
Bomb Squad is what this challenge was called. And this was crazy because there's so many different parts to it, right? One person has to get into the car, and the car tips over on the 2 wheels. You have to pop your head out the window, be able to read parts of a math equation. You will then radio that to your next partner. That partner has to solve the math equation. Then they have to tell the answer to the next person, who then has to solve the color code for the answer of the math equation. Then they have to run the 3 sticks, poles, I don't know what they're called. They have to run that to the last person, who then has to put them into the bomb and detonate it. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and it's really sounds a lot more complex than it actually was, but I was entertained by this challenge. The one thing I want to ask you, though, is, again, we get the situation where the teams are randomly selected. And I know someone messaged us, and I don't remember who it was, but it was on YouTube, because I wrote someone was like, their comment was just, the teams were randomly selected. And I was like, oh, you don't understand what we're saying. Like, we're mocking that fact, because of course the teams are not randomly selected. I'm a producer, meaning you, as a producer, you would control the outcome. You're trying to control the outcomes as much as possible to put people in positions where they can wreck shit.
I'm glad you brought up the randomly selected thing, because, I mean, you and I always say it in air quotes, so let's be very explicit. When TJ Lavin says that they were randomly selected, they were not randomly selected. The producers
here are the
choose the groups specifically.
Yeah.
And, like, further to this point, if they truly were randomly selected, they would show us the random selection, because it would add drama and tension.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, think of the reaction shots of, like, Jordan be like, oh, I have to work with so-and-so. You know what I mean? They wouldn't mess up that opportunity if they had it. Go ahead, Sheldon.
So here are the teams. Team 1, you got Jay, Kailah, Wes, and Nani. Pretty solid team. Team 2, Tori, Bear, D, and Bananas. Team 3 is Maddie, Rogan, Nelson, and Big T. Team 4, Casey, Swaggy C, Josh, and Jenny. Team 5, DJ Mel, Bailey, Kyle, and Corey. And Team 6, Fessy, Anissa, Jordan, and Jenna. So, solid teams. And
solid teams.
I thought this challenge was really cool, and I thought it would be a lot easier. And then I saw the first 2 teams screw up. So I was like, wait, is there something wrong with the walkie-talkies? Like, they just couldn't get it. Like, they couldn't communicate. Like, Bananas was in the car, he gives it to Bear, but Bear didn't hear, like, the first number. So that messed up the whole thing. So they were out. And then the next team, it was kind of the same thing, right? Like, who was it? Corey messed up? No, it wasn't Corey.
Yeah.
It wasn't Corey. Who was it? Bananas was in the car. Tori and D, they messed that up. And then it was... Who am I skipping here?
It was, first up, it was Jay fucks up and doesn't see that it's the first part of the equation is 85 divided by 5,
yes,
which is 17.
Then it was Bananas.
Then it was Bananas, and Bear didn't catch him say 85. He heard the 5 and thought he said 25, because he had 25 up there at first.
Yeah, and Bear jokes again, because he never misses an opportunity to mention his flirting with Kailah. He mentions, maybe he was distracted by Kailah. Which, come on, man. So, then we get your man's Nelson. He's super confident going in. And Maddie, with one of the liners of the episode, she says, I think I'm going to do pretty well in this, because I've been hanging out of car windows giving my number to boys for years. Which I thought was very good.
I loved it. I laughed, but I was a little mad at her for not just fully quoting TLC. Leaning out her best friend's ride from the passenger's side, trying to holler at me. You know...
Well played.
I live my life by certain rules, Sheldon, and one of them is, if you can quote TLC's No Scrubs, you do it. Like, you can't not do it.
What a moment in time. No Scrubs, and then the follow-up, No Pigeons, by Sporty
No
Thieves.
Pigeons is trash.
It was kind of funny.
Trash.
It was kind of funny. It was just funny that people could make just a response song. I was like, wait, who's Sporty Thieves? But it became pretty popular. It was a thing. Well, it was a thing.
Because guys had to defend themselves.
I guess
against pigeons. I really felt like they made up the term pigeons specifically for that song. Like, I don't really remember that being slang. Do you?
Yeah, I do. But I don't know if it became, I do, but I don't remember the order of things. Like, did they expound on it and make it bigger, or did they play off of it already existing? I don't remember. I'm too old. I don't remember.
I think No Scrubs has to be the title of this episode of You Killed It.
No, I had something else of what it should be, and I don't remember what it was, but maybe we'll get to it at some point.
Okay. All right, Sheldon. I can respect that.
So,
as I said, my life motto is always talk about No Scrubs if you can.
That's fair. So, Rogan, I don't know if we're going to call him a scrub or not, but he's super confident, and he's confident for a bit. Passes it off to Nelson, who Nelson takes off, but as soon as Nelson takes off, Rogan's questioning himself, right? And Big T puts in the 3 colors. Rogan thinks he messed up, and guess what? He did, because the bomb doesn't go off.
Yeah. So Rogan's mistake was that he thought that 85 divided by 5 was 19, when, as I just said, it's 17.
Yeah.
It's definitely, like, it's obviously wrong that it's not going to be 19. Like, 19 times 5 does not...
That doesn't make sense,
work out to 19, to 200. So, this is our moment, I think, to say something nice about Nelson. So I'm going to say it right now. Nelson really is probably the fastest person in the house.
Oh, okay, maybe. I don't
think, like in a dead sprint,
yeah,
I think he's the fastest. He'd be up there. Maybe Kyle seems more like a long distance runner, and we really saw Nelson's speed here, and he didn't let the team down, right? Like, he executed with the information he was given. So that's my nice thing to say about Nelson. How about you? What's your whoa Nelly thought?
My nice thing to say about Nelson is he had a nice hat on later on when they went to the club scene.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair.
I don't know if I could pull that off. I'm not confident enough to pull that off, but I liked his hat.
Okay, all right, there we go. Very nice. Look at that positivity.
Right? So next up we got Casey, who is relaying the code to Swaggy C. And okay, Swaggy C, I don't remember this ever coming up before, but Swaggy says he's the smartest in the house and he used to be a day trader. Which, did that part come up before? I remember him bragging about how smart he was, but I don't remember him talking about being a day trader. I don't even remember that from Big Brother. Maybe that's a thing that I forgot, or maybe because he came on calling himself Swaggy C, I just tuned out to him saying that.
So I don't have the history with Swaggy C and Bailey that you do.
Yeah.
But, like, I thought Swaggy C was a bad nickname. But imagine being a day trader and calling yourself Swaggy C. Like, it makes it so much worse. Right? Like, there's few professions that would be worse than being a stockbroker of any ilk and being like, oh yeah, I'm Swaggy C. Like, can you imagine, like, maybe an accountant would be worse?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have so many questions about this, though, because at first I was saying, okay, cool, so you're a day trader, so you're good with numbers. But to equate, like, how good you have to be with numbers to be a day trader to solving this, like, what, grade 4 level math equation? Like, what level of math is this? Right? Like, it was super funny. Like, when I put that into context, it was kind of like, okay, cool.
Also, I mean, this is a classic example of, like, book smart versus, like, life smart. Mm-hmm. I would not say that Swaggy is, like, smart in terms of, like, reading people or... You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of kinds of intelligence, and being good at math doesn't make you the smartest person in the house, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you make a good point because you brought up the fact that I do have a bit more of a history with Swaggy C. So I have to pause myself a little bit here and there because I remember, or I'm trying to, I guess, wonder what people watching this show so far think of Swaggy C and Bailey, because your opinion would be totally different if you watch them on Big Brother so far, because on this show, they're kind of laying low, kind of, sort of, but doing pretty well so far in the game. But, so I didn't know if I was being mean to Swaggy C, but I did write down this comment. A reminder that there's a difference between being a day trader and being a good day trader. Because if you were a good day trader...
Very good point.
Well, think about it. If you are a good day trader, why are you on the challenge? You have no need to be on the challenge if you are a good day trader. You just
That's a fair point.
Cashing checks.
Yeah.
But, just saying. So,
like, you could be like Wes, where like Wes has taken the money that he's made on Big Brother, on the challenge, and use it as investment capital, right? Like giving himself liquidity. But that's not the vibe I'm getting from Swaggy C. Like, if you're a day trader, that's not investing, that's moving money.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, you can profit off of it, but like,
I don't know. It's interesting.
Also, I hate to point this out, has not been a good year for the stock exchanges. Wonder how Swaggy C is doing now with that.
That's fair. So yeah, they end up figuring it out. Swaggy obviously gets it right. Their team does a good job. The next team with Bailey and Melissa and Corey and Kyle.
I loved how Kyle put it. He said, "Me and Corey are idiots, so we'll let Melissa and Bailey do the work, and we'll just do the running." Which,
Corey still almost messed that up.
Still, Corey almost fucked up running. But I really love Kyle's running theme of Corey and I are stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really bold strategy to always be, like, undercutting yourself like that. But you know what? It's working for him.
Totally true.
I think we are actually set for one of Kyle's best seasons ever. Just because, like, he's not clouding his mind by hooking up with someone. Cara and Polly are back in North America. He's continents away from them.
Yeah.
There's an ocean between them.
No, it's been going well for him.
It's been going well for him. So let's talk about Corey. What, like, how... I was blown away, pardon the pun, that he didn't know where to put the rods. That he, like, moved around the podium where they're supposed to slot the rods in. But also, that he, like, there had previously been an explosion in his vicinity, right? Like, we had just finished seeing...
Well, they're at the other end, right? Like, when you start, like, you're not at the end watching it, but you still should be able to see where it was coming from.
Yeah, like, it is an explosion. Like, you should have a sense... Like, what was he doing? And then my favorite part was, so he slots... One of the things I wondered about was if you had to slot the rods in the proper order.
Yeah, right? I think he did.
I don't think he did when he put them in because he was facing it the wrong way.
Oh, good point.
And he was so confused. And my favorite thing was he was in such a state of confusion. The explosion goes off behind him, not that far away from him. And he doesn't even react. Like, he doesn't, like, he puts the rods in confused, and then the explosion goes off.
Yeah.
Like, I know cool guys aren't supposed to react to explosions, but, like, he was out, like, he had no clue where he was, and all he had to do was run, 200 meters?
Yeah.
Maybe 400? It was less than a kilometer, for sure.
Well, as unsmooth as Corey looked, Jenna, with the next group... As Nelson so eloquently put it, Jenna was all smiles, looking like she was on Baywatch or something. And she's just, like, running, all smiles, just, like, making it look easy. Making it look super easy. And that team funny. Also got it right.
As she was running, and she had that huge grin on her face, I, like, was taking notes about, like, it's hilarious that Jenna's just, like, smiling and living her best life. And then they had Nelson comment on it, which could have been, I guess, like, my nice thing to say about Nelson. But, I love Jenna so much because she's just, like, she has it in perspective.
She just seems like a good person.
she seems like the best person on the show.
Yep.
Like the strongest moral compass. Seems really nice, like easy to like hang out with, easy to talk to. No one seems to have anything bad to say about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, why wouldn't you be smiling?
Totally.
Like, what a ridiculous life that you're living, that you just have to carry, like, they look like pool noodles that they're carrying.
Yeah.
A little skinnier, but like, you're just carrying 3 rods or sticks or whatever. And she probably runs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're earning like good cash for this and your appearance fees. Yeah,
not
smile.
a bad gig. Not a bad gig. So it comes down to teams 4 and team 6, and the winning team ends up being Swaggy, Josh, Casey, and Jenny. They become the Tribunal, and I guess at some point I got to start putting some respect on Swaggy's name because my guy's doing well so far.
2 tribunals.
I will not put respect on Josh's name, who right away says, "Pack your bag, Weston." And Wes just says, "This reeks of jealousy."
And you know you're in trouble when TJ chimes in.
Yeah.
He's like, "I smell it all the time, man. It's brutal."
So TJ wasn't my MVP of this episode, but he very easily could have been. TJ he was coming with it this whole episode. I enjoyed that a lot. But yeah, we get back to the house, right? And there's some drama starting to build as Wes is obviously trying to campaign to get numbers to get Jordan up and out of here. And
yep.
I love Jordan's response. And this is a reminder for people who are new to the challenge, right? At the end of the day, regardless of anything that happens, all the politics, all the whatever, at the end of the day, as long as you are confident in yourself going into elimination, you're going to be fine. And there you see Jordan proving that as someone who won last year, and won last year because he had to go into the elimination week after week after week, and they couldn't get him out. So he knows that Wes is trying to like rally numbers against him, and Jordan says, "That's fine. I'm good. Maybe it's just my time to go in, and if I do, I want Wes. I get to put my hands on him." And I thought, hey, that's a right attitude to have. But who is the voice of reason in the house to calm Wes down? Because we don't know how close he got to being able to get the numbers or to try to get the numbers. We don't know that. But who proves to be the voice of reason, John?
Jonathan Bananas himself. I want to point out that when Jordan was having that conversation, Bananas was right there front and center.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Bananas is in Jordan's circle of trust, which to me says, I mean, it speaks a lot about Jordan's confidence, but it also speaks to the fact that at least Jordan hasn't quite caught on that Bananas and Wes are working together. And Bananas has a great line to Wes where he says, "You said that you're going to be a dead possum. Well, you're not. Like, do less."
Yeah.
And that scene was so interesting to me for so many reasons. It felt like such a genuine conversation between two people that have known each other a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily liked each other, but like that felt like the most real Johnny Bananas has been on this show in a long time. Like, obviously the camera was right there, but he was not using his producer voice. Like, he had a different tone of voice. His body language was more subdued. He was firm, like he wasn't like passive, but it was it's a much more human moment between those two. And also the way Wes reacted, where Wes was a little sheepish and like recognized that he'd been overplaying his hand.
Yeah.
Like, if that can be their dynamic, where they can be that genuine with each other, they actually are dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I just think it's a smart play, right? It's just a smart play for the both of them, so it totally makes sense. And I love, too, how when we got to the noms, Wes makes it seem like he's about to say Jordan's name, but then just burns his vote on Kyle. I thought that was a super smart play. And the nominations, I just love how it plays out every week because there's such a strategy behind it. Because most of the people are just sitting back and waiting to see where the numbers fall and then how they can just jump on board. Because in the beginning, it seems to be between Bear and Jay, and it's kind of close. Right? It appears to be kind of close. And then all of a sudden, it's just not. Like, it was close, and then they said, all right, I guess the girls have to vote. Right? Because they were just going to leave it to the guys. And then all the girls just voted for Jay.
There's a few key moments that I have to point out. First of all, I thought it was interesting that Wes was the first one to vote.
Yeah.
Not just because he's one of the biggest personalities in the house, but it was obvious that he was sending a signal to his allies.
For sure.
Not to vote for Jordan.
Totally.
Like, it was obvious that he's like, I'm going to get my vote out of the way so people know I'm not going for Jordan. Mm-hmm. And, like, head this off at the pass. Like, as you said, the men voted first. A little I thought it was interesting that Nelson was the one to nominate Bear, and he cited that that people should still be mad at Bear for the fire extinguisher thing. On the one hand, I think that's not good enough of a reason. On the other hand, I do see Nelson's logic where, like, if you're going to single people out for anything, that is sort of the biggest thing. And also, Nelson and Bear aren't in an alliance. So, like, why not? Someone's got to go in. I don't think it's a signal that Nelson and Jay were in any sort of understanding. I think Nelson just like, man, Jay's done his time. That's enough.
Nelson's been in that position before, right? Where you're the rookie and you just keep getting thrown in.
Another key vote I thought was Jordan nominating himself.
Yeah.
Where he's like, Bear's my brother, which is incredible to say. And Jay, like, you've done your time. You've got your skulls. I don't want to, like, keep giving you skulls. And Jay made, I think, actually a very good defense of himself when, like, people started to vote for him, where he's like, guys, like, you have to win a skull yourself at some point, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can't, like, if you think about it, like, let's say there's going to be 10 men's eliminations. That means that in theory there would not be that many. Let's say there's 7 men's eliminations in total. That means that there's 7 skulls available. Jay has 2 of the skulls. Right? Like, the number is counting down.
Yeah.
If he wins another skull, that means there's only 4 skulls left. Only 4 men can, right? Like,
yeah.
If you keep putting him in and he keeps winning, in theory, he could win all 7 men's skulls.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's the only man. Like, at some point, you have to stop putting Jay in. Yeah. I think it was the best argument he could make. I'm not saying that his logic's perfect, just that it was the best argument he could make to everyone.
No, totally.
But then the women started voting. What did you think of the women's votes?
Yeah, it's fine. Like, they're just jumping on board because they want to keep the majority of the house, because they know if the flip side happens, you don't want to stand out in any way. So as soon as everyone's just voting for Jay, you do the same thing. Because you don't want to be the one to stand out, because if the flip side happens next week and the decision needs to be made, there's no way to decipher between, oh, well, what did Mel do last week? What did Kailah do last week? What did Nani do last week? They all did the same thing. It's smart.
Yep.
It's smart.
But
Jay's mad. Jay's mad, and on a level I kind of do get why he's mad. But as Kailah says, welcome to the challenge. And it's a great point, because I keep bringing up last season where Jordan and Tori had to go in every single week. It was just them rotating, going in, and taking people out. That's just what happens on the show. And they weren't even rookies, right? They're not rookies.
There's 2 votes that I have to point out, though. One is Kailah, who votes for Jay over Bear. And
Obviously.
Bear takes this as a sign of her true love and undying affection.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dee votes for Jay, and her logic that she articulates she puts this out into the world, is that she says, Bear and Rogan are great friends, or brothers, and if Bear goes in and gets eliminated, Rogan will be miserable, and then I'm going to be miserable. She says this to the guy who she made out with like 5-6 days before.
I tune her out. I can't even lie to you. I tune her out.
That's fair, but like, holy shit! Like, vote for Kyle. Vote for Wes. Like, just burn your vote if you have to. Like,
yeah,
Rogan is your ex-boyfriend, but I think that something has happened that we have not seen on camera, like that they haven't shown us yet, where Rogan and Dee are basically speaking as if they're back together.
Yeah, and I mean...
And, like, Jay's the scapegoat, which, like, you and I had said earlier, that, like, Jay should not have made out with Dee because he should not have, like... Because it was never going to work out well for him, right? Like, he was just the pawn between Dee and Rogan, but, like, it's fucked up that they're essentially back together after he hit on Jen and she made out with Jay. Like, they have one of those, like, toxic relationships that are just the worst.
Yeah, totally. I just think they're both trying to do the most to stay relevant and have storylines on the show. But we get our a club scene. Not much really happens. I mentioned how much I enjoyed Nelson's hat. Rogan, I guess the biggest thing to come out is Rogan saying if it's physical, he wants in. And... yeah. That's kind of the biggest thing that to happen through the club scene, other than the fact that obviously Bear and Kailah are drunk. And as I mentioned last week, you know, when you see the club scene, sometimes it's not about the club scene, it's about the after party, right? And in this after party, Kailah and Bear, they're flirting. Kailah says, I like hanging out with you, but I have a boyfriend. And she asks if Bear had called his girlfriend since he's been here. I didn't even know that Bear had a girlfriend. I had no idea. I did not know that.
Do you think he's called his cousin, though?
Right? Good callback. Good callback. And he says no, he hasn't called his girlfriend because there's someone in the house that he likes. And Nany and Kyle are just blatantly spying on them, right?
Like, yeah, Kyle said it. He's like, I'm just watching you two. I love Kyle. Kyle's, yeah. I said it already. Kyle's having a great season.
So my line of the episode is Bear's pretend phone call to Kailah's boyfriend, where he says, Hello, Kailah's boyfriend. How are you? Good. Who am I? I'm the guy who stole your boyfriend. Don't be angry. Pack your bags. I'm moving in. And at this moment, I was already laughing. Okay, and I was already thinking, thinking that I was gonna say they're gonna play like It's Mr. Steal Your Girl, they're gonna play some Trey songs or something, right? In my mind, that's what I was thinking. I was like, that would be a funny name for the episode, Mr. Steal Your Girl. That's what I was thinking. And then, in one of the greatest editorial decisions made in possibly challenge history, what song did they decide to play?
The Offspring's Pretty Fly for a White Guy, which was so perfect. Oh my god. I want to take a second. I would like to take a second to give a slow clap to whoever's decision that was, because that was just great. Well done. Bravo. Salute to you. Great job by whoever's idea that was. So good. And that is what I think the name of the episode is. Okay. Yeah, I'll co-sign on that. Right. I need a break before we get to the bathroom, which is a whole other thing. I got to break a couple things down here.
Okay.
To analyze the situation. Okay? Because there's some subtle things at work here, and I know you got them, because you're very smart. You understand human behavior, but for our listeners, I need to point out 3 things that happened that were indications of what was to come. First of all, when Bear and Kailah were talking about how they're both in relationships, and also earlier when Kailah was talking to Jenna, at no point do they use their significant other's names. Which, Smart. If you think about it, is a really weird way to talk about someone that you've been in a relationship, especially with the conversation between Jenna and Kailah, where I think Jenna used to date Kailah's boyfriend, Mikey. His name's Mikey. Mikey P. Because he's also a reality TV guy.
Okay.
But, if you're talking to one of your closest friends about your boyfriend, you would say Mikey. You wouldn't say my situation back home. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That was Kailah on some level mentally distancing. I don't think Bear needs any help mentally distancing himself from this girlfriend that we hadn't heard about until this conversation. But the fact that they're not using names, if you're serious about staying loyal, you're using your significant other's name because you're trying to remind yourself of their existence. You're humanizing them.
Okay.
You don't use their name, you're dehumanizing them, putting them out of your mind. Second of all, that conversation that they were having on a couch with two witnesses was very performative. That conversation was not between the two of them. That conversation was for Kyle and for Nani and for the cameras. That was to reassure everyone that they were not interested. And then the final subtle thing that happened was that Kailah announced that she was going to the bathroom. Because that was a signal to Bear that he was going to go to the bathroom too.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Right? You announce that fully knowing that the person you're interested in is going to join you 2 or 3 minutes later. Signed sincerely, someone who has made out in a lot of bathrooms.
Fair enough.
That's the signal.
And this
that was the move.
And this point was emphasized because obviously Kailah says when they're in the bathroom in her confessional, she's like, oh, I didn't think the cameras caught that. And that's because she's thinking of the other camera, not like the robo camera that's obviously in the corner, kind of like a security camera, right? Which I don't know how she could not know that. Clearly she's just drunk, because you got to know, if you've been on the challenge long enough, they have those cameras in every single room, right? Yeah. So she had to know that, but also, as a wise man once said, when the Remy's in the system, right? So I thought it was funny, and I thought just the playful back and forth with the producer in the confessional asking if Bear was a good kisser, and she's just blushing, and she's like, do I have to answer that? I just found that pretty funny, just that whole thing. And it made me wonder, the whole time we kept talking about Kailah's boyfriend, but we never even thought about Bear's girlfriend. Where does she play into this whole thing in terms of her watching all this, right? That part's pretty funny. But all in all, we knew this moment was coming. So it's not a surprise.
Did. So I've saved this in reserve for this moment because, Sheldon, I know that you don't keep up with the off-season gossip like I do, in part because you try to avoid spoilers. And as I said earlier, this episode of You Killed It, I don't avoid spoilers to the level you do. So when someone cheats, there's often push factors and pull factors.
Yeah.
The pull factor would be Bear's animal magnetism. That's a little bear pun for you kids. The push factor is that, according to Kailah, her boyfriend back home, Mikey, cheated on her all the time, and that his infidelity was a running issue in their relationship.
Okay.
She said that in a tweet, and I got this source. It was all put together by, I'm going to give credit where it's due, cheatsheet.com. Tamara Grant wrote about this back on February 17th. So if you want to look up Kailah, Mikey P cheating, there's an article that breaks it down. And sure enough, when she got back, allegedly, this is all allegedly, lots of allegeds, but allegedly, when she got back, the entire time she was in the Czech Republic, he was enjoying himself back home in Las Vegas.
Not surprising.
Not surprising. They live in Las Vegas, to be clear. It's not like you made a trip for a boys' weekend. They lived in Las Vegas. So she essentially never moved back to Las Vegas. When she got back from the Czech Republic, she spent time with Bear and his family in England. and then went to Las Vegas to break up with Mikey, picked up her stuff, and then moved to Florida, where she and Nani are now roommates. They both live in Florida, and Marie lives in Florida as well. Mm-hmm. They hang out all the time, as you've probably seen on social media. And she now has a new boyfriend. Yeah. Whole other story. But my point is that, not to defend her actions, but she probably was, although she'd been with Mikey for a long time, they're having problems as well.
Yeah.
Relationships are more complicated. It's not black and white. That's just my point, to defend Kailah. She should not have done this, but it's also not great. Like,
no, I got you.
Bad relationship in general.
I got you. Yeah, so moving on a little here, we get to the Tribunal, and Josh is doing all the talking, of course, and they end up selecting Rogan, Nelson, and Wes. And Nelson again finds himself in trouble, which I don't even know how or why Nelson continues to be brought in, because he's not doing anything to anyone, but
this has to be the most pro-Nelson episode we've ever had.
And
he's done nothing wrong. Like, I think he's played a sound game. He hasn't gotten into trouble. He hasn't gone into fights. He's not hooking up with anyone.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's getting this heat. Continue, please.
Super weird, for sure. And I thought at this point, wait, I didn't know who was going to go in. I really wasn't sure. But Josh thinks that he's running the house. And the biggest thing to come out of this tribunal is him versus Wes. And this conversation was one of the better things to happen in recent memory on the challenge. So Josh says it's going to be a you versus me thing. And I'm thinking, wait, where did this come from? Like, where did this start? I don't really get it. And I think Wes had the biggest boss line I've heard in a while. He says, you want to make this a Wes and Josh thing. I will never come at you. It will never be a thing. You can come at me all you want, but this will never be a thing. I go for people who I can beat in a final. I don't come here for this. I come here to win $1 million. To which Josh says, well, this doesn't have to be a thing. We can dead it right now. And if that changes, then, I guess we're going at each other again. Wes's response, no. Again, this isn't an each other thing. You can come at me all you want. I do not come here to go after the worst player here. Close quote. And I love how they cut it the first time around because it was with all the tension. And then the second time around when they came back from commercial break, they cut to the wide shot for the entire team's reaction. And both Jenny and Swaggy are laughing at Josh, but they're trying to keep their head down to pretend as if they're not laughing at him. And Josh is, if Wes was trying to avoid it, I was with him right up until the end. But then I don't even care. I approve of his message overall. Because Josh is an idiot. Who's gassing Josh? I'm with Wes 100% here.
That gif that's been used for everything of the pallbearers dancing with the casket, yeah. That's what the producer should have played next. That was the combo breaker. That was the Mortal Kombat fatality. That was stone cold.
Yeah.
That was such a death blow. And Josh is so dumb, he doesn't understand what just happened to him.
No.
He just got murked verbally by Wes.
Yeah.
Wes just said, we don't have a rivalry because you are so far beneath me that you're not worth it. And you know what? Wes is right. Wes has bigger fish to fry. Wes has to worry about Jordan. Jordan is a player. Jordan wins.
Yeah.
Jordan is lethal in finals. Jordan is lethal in eliminations. Jordan is also coming for Wes. That's a problem. Josh is not a problem. Josh doesn't have votes. Josh isn't good in eliminations. Josh has never seen a final. Josh is not part of the conversation. And the matter-of-fact way, I don't think Wes was even trying to insult him, which is even more insulting. I think Wes wasn't trying to score points. Wes was just trying to be no, bro, we don't have a rivalry. I'm not coming for you. Stop wasting my time. Like, this is not... Stop trying to make fetch happen. Like, what?
Yeah, it was really
just
good.
Like a... Oh.
And even afterwards, when Josh is trying to defend himself to the rest of his team, and he's saying, this is why I don't like Wes. He's always trying to discredit people. And, you know, that's why I had to humble him. And I thought about it, and I was like, wait a second, what is Josh even talking about it? So I had to go back and think about what he was saying, right? Like, what do you mean you had to humble Wes? Like, when did this happen? And so I went back to last season to, like, wait a second, what happened? And, okay, did Josh play a hand in sending Wes home? Yes, he did.
Yes.
But he did it, and it was one of the dumbest moves in challenge history. In fact, for that episode when Josh sent Wes home, this is what I said on that podcast. Quote, I'm not picking an MVP, I'm picking an LVP. Josh is the LVP of all LVPs, as in least valuable players. In this one episode alone, he cheered for Georgia to expose his ally for nothing because you're still not getting it in with Georgia. In the same episode, he volunteered to be the speaker so that he could make sure to put one of the other team's best players in. And not only did he not do that, but instead, you eliminated one of your own team's best players in Wes, and you claim that you took your shot before Wes took his, but no, Josh, you're at the bottom of the ladder anyways, because you suck at challenges, and you're super annoying. You piss off your teammates. Again, you made their team stronger by making your team weaker. That, my friends, is what Josh is saying he did last season to humble Wes. Which makes no sense. Right? Like, does he think we forgot about what happened just last season on this show?
As I said, Josh is so dumb, he doesn't understand what just happened. Like, he doesn't... And, like, Swaggy... I'll give Swaggy C credit. In confessional, he's like... He doesn't understand that Josh is doing exactly what Wes wants. That when Josh says, I'll see you in the final, that's what Wes wants. Wes wants to go to the final because he has his eye on the prize, as Josh should.
Hold on. And Wes wants to go to the finals with you, Josh, because he can beat you in the final.
Because, like, the one thing that Josh understands is that he was just disrespected, but he doesn't understand how deep a burn it was. Right? Like, he's still in shock from the car crash, the verbal car crash that he just went through. And like I said, like, Wes wasn't even... That wasn't for show. Like, that wasn't for play. That wasn't a performance. That wasn't shit talk. That was just like... like, this isn't happening. Like, we're not going to be, like, partners on Rivals Season 4. Like, get out of here. And I will tell you, I've never revealed this before. Wes had told me once that there was another person on the show. He asked me to never say who. But Wes once told me that there's someone who's a regular on the challenge that he hates. That he hates more than Johnny Bananas. That he hates, like, with a burning, incredible passion. And he hates them so much that he makes a point of not ever fighting with them on camera, so because he doesn't want to end up on a season of Rivals with them. Like, that's the level that Wes is thinking on, where he's thinking, like, if I come back and it turns out it's a Rivals season and I get paired with Josh, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. So Wes is just, like, burying it now, because Wes is thinking, like, seasons from now, that he doesn't want to end up being partnered with Josh at some point. And I can't blame him, because, I mean, let's put it this way. Is Josh the worst player in this game? Like, is Wes's assessment correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. It's hard to... He's certainly bottom tier. Swaggy C and Bailey might be in the conversation, but they're unproven. Big T, maybe. But, like, I can also see, like, pros to Swaggy C and Bailey. Like, Swaggy C and Bailey have a better alliance than anything Josh has. Big T, I think, is better liked. Right? Like, we haven't really seen what they can do. I'd say Swaggy's in better shape, and Bailey's, like, Josh might actually be the worst player in the game.
Yeah, and I mean,
be correct. It's in the conversation.
Further to this, right, is the whole thing that Josh is talking such a big game, but in no way is there any mention of him actually going in to the elimination either. Right? Which is a weirder part of this whole thing, because for the second week in a row, there's not even a thought given to whether or not those two guys who are in the tribunal, if they want to go in. And I thought it was funny how much TJ was calling them out for that.
Well, to that point, when they go to Purgatory, Swaggy and Josh are not dressed to possibly compete. And, like, in my mind, if you're on the tribunal and don't yet have a red skull, I think, and it's like your gender that's competing, I think you have to dress to compete, so you at least have the option.
Yeah, but they know they want no smoke, right? And if you don't want the smoke at all, why even waste time and get dressed?
But as soon as they walk in, it's a headbanger, it's balls in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they rename it to Fireball, but they address that, and we'll address that in a moment. But this is a competition that Josh could win. Like, Josh is a big dude. But Jay's a little dude. It's a headbanger. He could have, in theory, gone in and gotten himself a red skull.
But if you want to actually compete, which he doesn't want to actually compete, right?
He does not.
That's the whole thing.
If Josh was smarter, like if I'm in that house and once you learn that you can volunteer yourself, I'm getting dressed for battle every time, just in case. Like if it's like if I'm on the challenge and they're like, oh yeah, it's a Canadian history battle, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm the only Canadian here, like, and I'm on the tribunal, I'm going in just because I can. You know what I mean? Like, you never know. If there's something that so firmly plays to your strengths, you want to be in a position to shoot your shot. But to your point, Swaggy and Josh don't want that smoke at all. And I loved how TJ, in particular, gave Swaggy C a hard time about it, and they cut to Bailey looking like she was ready to jump the banister and fight TJ Lavin.
No, for sure.
Bailey, you got to relax. People are going to, that's the nature of the beast. People are going to take a run at Swaggy at some point.
Yeah.
They're going to take a run at Swaggy.
Totally. And so we've known that Rogan wanted in as long as it was a physical challenge. So Rogan goes down. He's hyped up. He's ready to go. And I don't know if I forgot that Rogan was a rugby player. Like, I totally forgot that. Like, I feel like it was mentioned at some point, but I totally just forgot. But as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, it's a wrap. And I already thought it was a wrap, but I was holding out. You know me, I always hold out the possibility of the producers trying to, like, trick us. So I was holding out a little bit thinking, oh, well, maybe they're just saying that to hype it up. But as soon as he said, oh, he plays rugby, I was like, oh, this is a wrap for sure. Jay has no chance. Then it starts, and you could tell, we say anytime on the challenge when there is a contact, right? Like, it's a contact elimination or a contact challenge. You either want the smoke or you don't, meaning you're embracing the contact or you don't. And it doesn't matter about how big you are or how strong you are. It's just your willingness to suffer contact. And Jay, as soon as it starts and you're flat-footed, bro, it's a wrap. And Rogan tackles him, slams him to the ground, and this is how the episode ends. And I'll be honest, I'm okay with this cliffhanger because, you know, it's making it seem like he's hurt and all that, and he could still get up and continue. He's going to lose anyways, right? Like, even if he does get up and continue, he's going to lose because Rogan's a rugby player. But I was okay with this cliffhanger. And I'll say this, I don't think the hit was as bad as they made it out to be. Right?
I'd say this. I thought it was a clean hit, and it wasn't even really a hit. It was that Jay fell down awkwardly. So the first replay, I thought that what happened was that he sort of his outer foot was lifted, and then he planted it hard. So I thought it was like going to be an ankle or a knee, like a ligament tear or a tendon popping or something. Like, I thought it was going to be along those lines. And then they were saying that it looked like he landed badly on his arm, and that it looked like his arm was broken. His arm didn't look broken to me. Maybe they had a different angle, but like from what we were shown from the cameras, it looked like he was in pain, and it was like probably it sounded like he had the wind knocked out of him, which would be the best case scenario out of the three. We got some questions though from listeners. Let's address those. So first up, we have Mona7. Excuse me, I just hit puberty. Mona7 said, did you see how she said that Rogan is such a coward? Did we see how he used Jay's head to push himself up? I did not see that. Did you see that?
Yeah, but he did kind of, but whatever. That happens in football. Like, that's
a football thing.
Yeah, that's fine. That happens. He'd get a flag for unnecessary roughness, 5-yard penalty, whatever. Move on. I'm okay with it.
Mona doesn't like that. Apparently, I haven't checked Twitter this morning, but apparently Rogan was bragging about it on Twitter, and Mona didn't like that. Which,
hold on, as he should be, right? Like, listen, I'm all for talking shit if you back it up.
Apparently, Rogan was bragging about like pushing his head into the sand.
Totally fine with that too. They were talking shit to each other, and Rogan, I'm totally okay with talking shit as long as you back it up. And he told them, hey, if I get in there with a headbanger, I'm going to fold you. And he did. So I'm okay with it.
Mona also wants to know, if Jay has to leave because of an injury, do we think that Rogan should get a red skull? Because if Jay has to leave right after that slam, then technically Rogan didn't win.
No, I completely disagree. Of course he should get a skull, and in fact, if he eliminates him from the game, he should get all of his red skulls too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I mean, here's my counter argument. I think that, like, if this was a combat sport like boxing or MMA, if you're injured, you lose. And, like, I know this isn't a combat sport, but also, like, put it this way. When it's Rogan's turn to, like, put the ball away, which, by the way, we didn't even talk about it. The ball's on fire. We skipped over that part.
So unnecessary, right?
It doesn't make a difference because they're, like, covered in fire-retardant gear. But but in theory, now Rogan can just, like, walk and put the ball in. You know what I mean? Like, it's essentially a default because Rogan can now just like walk and put the ball in 3 times. Game over.
It's jam done.
Lucas Wyatt sent us 2 messages. 2 questions. He tweeted at us, how delusional is Josh? You would think losing to Jordan in a tug-of-war challenge would have humbled him, which, I mean, we already addressed. It has not humbled him. It should. Mm-hmm. Josh has no self-awareness. And then Lucas also asked, there's been a lot of hard hits during headbanger eliminations. Rogan's hit on Jay was really bad. Was that the hardest hit in the history of the show? What do you think, Sheldon?
So I'm going to follow up with this because this is I'm going to have this comment piggyback on the one you just read. This one was sent to me by Sarah, and Sarah says, not sure if you finished watching yet, but as someone who played rugby for 10 years myself, you learn how to tackle someone and make it stick, even to make a point, without throwing them like a rag doll or causing serious bodily harm. Rogan's tackle was vicious and made with ill intent. So
that's interesting insight.
I don't think it was the hardest hit we've seen on the challenge. Like, even if you go back to last season, I think was it Tori against Jenny?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was harder, I think. Like, we've seen harder hits than that. The part I will agree with Sarah on was he definitely threw him down like a ragdoll to make a point. Right? Which, it's the challenge. Like, yes, is that illegal in football? Yes. You can't do that to Tom Brady. You'd probably get thrown out of the game. Can you do that in rugby? Probably not. I don't know if you can. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with the rules of rugby. I don't think you can.
They have penalties where you go to the sin bin So for the disrespect, like pushing his head down and stuff, I think he'd go to the sin bin for that. But that's at the referee's discretion.
But again, the reason why the challenge is the 5th major North American sport is because shit like this can happen, right? Like the challenge is not a safe sport. It just isn't. So I don't think it's the hardest hit we've seen on the challenge, but it is a very hard hit. And would it be illegal in other sports? Yes. But as we keep saying, all is fair in love, war, and the challenge. And when you talk shit, hey, that might happen. And Jay talked shit. Jay made out with dude's girl. All these things that he was doing that he knew weren't really like cool moves. Hey, man, shit happens. And I don't even rep Rogan like that. I really don't. But on this side of what's going on, I'm going to give Rogan credit here.
To answer Lucas's question, in my mind, I think there's a lot of hard hits. The hit that I always show people when I show like how bad it can be on the challenge. Yes, exactly. The pain train. Sheldon's calling for the pain train. When CT body checked Johnny Bananas and Tyler at the same time. This is prime CT in like the best shape of his life on, I guess it was the first season of Rivals.
I don't even know what season it was, but yeah. Oh, yeah, it was because CT's partnered with Adam. Yeah.
Yeah. And Johnny Bananas probably weighs like 185 pounds to 200 pounds. Tyler probably weighs about the same. And he body checked both of them. And like, they were out. There's also
just his description of choo choo. Like I thought that was amazing.
And like CT was in the best shape of his life at that point. Like CT, this is pre-C, like had his head screwed on right, but also still like no dad bod yet. Also, there's a competition. I can't remember what it's called, but on Cutthroat, where they're on like a raised platform and they have riot gear and they have to like shove each other off. And I think it was Derek K. basically had to take on everyone at once, and he was like bleeding from his mouth and like getting like demolished by like Dunbar and like other people. And I want to say, why am I and Brad and Dunbar just bullying Derek, who's much smaller. 2 examples, not the hardest hit. I think what contributed to it though was to your point that you gotta want the contact, and because Jay did not want the contact, he landed badly. Like, this sounds fucked up to say, but like, if you play a contact sport, you learn how to take a hit, and I don't think Jay knows how to take a hit. Not to blame the victim here, but like, you know that it's actually not worth your while to put a foot down. You know what I mean? Like, you're better off landing on your side and rolling, right? Like, it's better to like try to get on your back and like roll with it, whereas he put out a leg and an arm, hence why it looked so bad. And like, I really like Jay, and I hope to see him back on other seasons. I don't want him to be injured, but like, Rogan's playing fairly, and it is what it is. I do think if I were Jay, like, in your heart of hearts, you have to know that you don't want to get hit, and if you don't want to get hit, acknowledge that to yourself and make your strategy based off of that. Like, if I were him and I didn't want to be hit, I would have banked on being faster than Rogan and tried to run in a spiral and like see if you can like outpace Rogan, maybe have Rogan trip or fall and like try to spiral and like outmaneuver him and get closer in. But instead he tried a juke move, which is not going to work. But I'm saying, like, from the hop, immediately like start running around the ring and try to like cut your way in and make Rogan catch you rather than like try to deke him out.
Yeah,
that's my only thought on it.
Yeah, he messed up because he was flat-footed, right? And like,
yeah,
you're engaging in contact flat-footed, you're gonna lose, and also you were standing straight up against someone who's low to the ground. And shouts to Coach Domenico, always used to say, "Lowest man wins." So he got dummied, and it's a wrap. That's it.
You know, one thing that we didn't say that maybe we should have considered is that I think the instinct would be to put the ball under your elbow so that you can like give someone the old Heisman and like stiff arm them. but because it's on fire, you kind of have to hold it in your hand, which makes it harder to stiff arm.
Yeah, no, definitely plays a role. Definitely plays a role.
In fairness to Jay. So we've heard your line of the episode, right? Yes?
Yep.
My line of the episode, and there's a lot of great lines. My line of the episode was Kailah, when she comes out of the bathroom after making out with Bear, drunkenly, like, comes right into the camera and goes, "Oh!" and is, like, surprised. I know it wasn't, like, a quip and it wasn't, like, super clever, but it made me laugh so hard where she was like, "Oh my god, why is there a camera here?" And just, like, it showed, like, she was so drunk. I'm like, ah, it was so good. Made me laugh a lot. Unbent Flo asks, "Can't wait to see who killed it this week. Maybe TJ for putting Swaggy on blast? Good moves were few and far between in this episode. So Sheldon, Unbent Flo, and I ask, who killed it for you this week?"
My MVP of the episode, and I mean, this could come back to bite me because we don't know what happens. Like, Jay could come back and win in the next episode. Do I think that's going to happen? No. So in terms of what I just saw, I'm giving it to Rogan. Rogan, because for whatever reason, and I disagree about him and D, I don't even care about him and D, but for whatever reason, he caught feelings, and for whatever reason, he felt a certain type of way because, you know, Jay played along with D's plan to make out with them or to make out with her and make Rogan jealous. Rogan didn't like it. Rogan said he didn't like it. He said he wanted to go in to an elimination against him to hurt him and also avenge CT losing. All of these things Rogan said, and then he did it. So if you know me, I'm for shit talking as long as you back it up. And even though I don't rep Rogan on this show, he talked shit and he backed it up in a big way. And for that, Rogan, you killed it. You are my MVP of the episode.
I think that's a good pick. But I'm going for an LVP. And I think you know who I'm going to say. My LVP is Josh. Because he just took such a hard L in that tribunal. And, like, talk about playing the game wrong, where someone has repeatedly, publicly said that they are not gunning for you and that they will never gun for you in front of everyone. Like, he just, like, I would have assumed that Swaggy and Bailey would have been, like, his Josh's natural allies. Swaggy's going to be coming back to Bailey, getting under their custom-made blanket with photos of them, and saying, "You won't believe, I just saw our ally, Josh, get dummied verbally by one of the biggest names in this house that has an alliance. We can't be ride or die for Josh. We don't want any part of this. Like, we need to cut ties publicly." You know what I mean? Like, he lost so much face. And it's all of his own doing, right? Like, Wes has given him, aside from being condescending, Wes has given him no reason to go after him. As I said earlier in the episode, Wes publicly criticized people for attacking Laurel and Josh on Twitter and on social media. Like, Wes has not done wrong by you, so to try to, like, create some sort of vendetta is ridiculous. Like, you're just bringing this on yourself, man.
No,
so Josh, you get the LVP for sure. Like, come on, bro.
No, I hear you. And the biggest reason why Josh takes the L here is because it doesn't take much. And if you didn't watch last season's of the challenge, it doesn't take much to go back and realize that Josh really messed up so bad when he was manipulated by Laurel to flip the vote and get Wes out, which was a huge turning point in last season that sort of paved the way for what the main topic was last year of Jordan and Tori switching teams and then making the UK team a thing and then winning. So, like, Josh's whole narrative that he's trying to spin that him and Wes have this rivalry because he took him out is false. But again, this is a guy who won Big Brother that didn't really deserve to win Big Brother. So, hey, more power to you, Josh. Let's see how it works out for you.
Where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the pod on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. Not to break our arms patting ourselves on the back, but you heard in this episode how much we will read out comments and questions. I think we have 4 or 5 people whose comments and questions we read out. So if you reach out to us, you will hear from us, and we will likely read out your question if we remember. That's the only thing holding us back, is sometimes we forget, and sometimes we have a hot week on Twitter and your mentions fall by the wayside. But for sure, always reach out to us. We always appreciate it. We always get back to you. And when possible, we will read out your questions when we can.
Yeah, I mean, all that's going on now in my mentions is all Jordan Doc. And we've been doing a Jordan Doc pod on the On Blast Network. And so that's about it.
I got to watch the episodes 3 and 4 this afternoon. I have a video call that I do with my friend Siobhan Morris. Shout out to Shomo. Where we were watching them together, so that's going to be my afternoon.
Cool.
So I've been staying out of those mentions, but great stuff. If you're a sports fan, definitely check it out. It's on Netflix. They usually post them on Netflix by Monday, so check it out.
Yeah, it's on Netflix in Canada. In the States, it's on ESPN Sunday nights.
There you go. Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it.